What's up guys, Mango here, and today we are going to be talking about situational awareness. Now, what is situational awareness? Well, there's the guy right in front of you that you're trying to eliminate, and then there's everything else that's going on around you. Situational awareness covers everything else that's going on around you. It is being aware that although you're focused on shooting the guy right in front of you, that there's a whole situation going on around you. Now this covers a lot of things. In fact, this covers most things. The guy in front of you isn't as important as you think. Overwatch is a complex game, and you need to pay attention to a multitude of different things as you play if you want to help your team to victory. So, what exactly am I talking about? In no particular order, here are things that fall under the umbrella of situational awareness. Listening for enemy footsteps, tracking ults, tracking abilities, tracking objective status, teammate communications, hero switches, ult combos, positioning, reloading, pathing. There are so many things to keep track of in this game. I'm going to talk about a few of the most important ones for your success. Number 1. Tracking ults and abilities. Being able to track ults and abilities is one of the biggest separators of high tier players and low tier players, and unfortunately only comes with competitive experience. Knowing when the enemy has their ult should massively affect your playstyle and positioning, and hopefully help you negate its effects. The best example of this is a Reinhardt battle. You know how close the enemy Rein is to their first shatter by comparing it to your own ult percentage, and then asking yourself, who has been doing more damage? If the enemy Rein has been landing more swings, more pins, or more fire strikes, you better believe he's going to have his shatter before you. Knowing this, as Reinhardt, your number one goal should be to bait out and block the shatter. Make the enemy Rein think you are going in on his team so you can pull back just in time to block his shatter. Rein matchups are a huge mind game, and this goes for any hero on the roster. If you notice any enemy is putting out a lot of damage or getting a lot of eliminations, you need to assume they are close to their ult. One thing you can look for is posturing. A lot of times when players have their ult, they will begin to posture their character in a way that will give away their intentions. For example, oftentimes when a Zarya wants to grab, she will become much more aggressive and play in front of her team. This should be a dead giveaway that she wants to use her ult. Some heroes are better than others at dealing with this. Diva or Sigma can absorb the ult if they're anticipating it, but sometimes the best you can do is steer clear of an enemy that wants to ult. There are other situations you should look for that will trigger enemy ults. Is it overtime on a control point and you see an enemy Reaper or Mei hustling back from spawn? Better be prepared for them to throw out their ultimate. Ults are the biggest abilities in the game, and denying them value can be the difference between a win and a loss. Once you're able to track ults, you can start thinking about tracking ability cooldowns. Unlike ults, tracking abilities is more of an offensive skill set. Typically, I'm tracking abilities when I want to ult to make sure my ult doesn't get interrupted. For instance, if you're Genji and you want to pull out your Dragon Blade, you should maybe wait until you see Baptiste use his immortality field on something else so he can't deny you kills during your ult. Are you a Reaper that wants to Death Blossom in the middle of the team? Better wait until that McCree uses his flashbang, otherwise you can bet he's going to put a stop to your ult. I sometimes like to think of these as green light abilities, as once you see the enemy use the ability, you have the green light to go in and use your ult. Don't hesitate too much because they're going to come off cooldown sooner than you think. So position yourself, wait for the green light, then go in when the coast is clear. Next, we're going to talk about ult combos and ult management. Like I just said, ults are the biggest, most important abilities in the game, so you want to make sure you're not wasting them. One way you can waste them is by blowing a good combo. Hanzo and Zarya's ults are one of the most best classic examples of a wombo combo in the game. Hanzo's dragons can be hard to hit on mobile enemies, so Zarya's grab is a surefire way to make sure Hanzo's ult hits the enemy team. So if you're the Hanzo in this situation, make sure not to fire off your dragons if Zarya is close to her ult. Communicate with her to make sure she's ready to combo, then let it rip. Ults are almost always better used together. Even if they don't have perfect synergy, you can use them to overwhelm the enemy. Another way to waste an ultimate is using them when a fight is already won or lost. A classic example of a lost fight scenario that you see with a lot of beginner players is when a Zarya is the last one alive on her team, sees a bunch of enemies in front of her, and lets her ult fly, only to get annihilated by the 5 or 6 enemies Zarya caught in her grav. It's understandable, she saw a lot of enemies grouped up in front of her, so she wanted to trap them, but once your whole team is dead, no one will be able to follow up on the grav. This is why it's important to have a general idea of what's going on in the kill feed, to know which team is at an advantage in the fight, or if it's already been won or lost. On the flip side of that coin, if your team is up 5-2 and your Genji breaks out Dragon Blade, it's kind of a waste because you're probably going to win that fight without it. Generally, ults shouldn't be used in a fight if you have 2 more or less players than the enemy team. At this point, the fight is usually won or lost. This is a rule of thumb and doesn't apply to every fight or every scenario, like if a Winston ults to stall the objective, but you can generally consider a fight won or lost if there's a 2-man advantage to either side. This all boils down to situational awareness and knowing where your team is at in a fight before you invest your ult. The best way to do this is to keep an eye on the kill feed. Finally, we can't talk about situational awareness in Overwatch without talking about audio. The sound design in this game is phenomenal, and being able to interpret what you're hearing can give you a huge advantage. This whole section is predicated on the fact that you're playing with the gaming headphones. Without them, you're going to have trouble picking up on small audio cues like enemy footsteps, and I highly recommend getting a gaming headset if you want to play competitive Overwatch. There are a lot of audio cues to pay attention to. For example, all characters have loud voice lines they use when activating their ultimate that all players in the match will be able to hear to alert them of impending ults. It's important to listen for enemy ult lines in the midst of battle in case it's happening off screen so you can be prepared and respond to it. Another major audio cue you need to listen for is enemy footsteps. Players that are over-focused on one thing are prone to missing footsteps of enemy flankers. Almost every hero in this game makes footsteps, and some are louder than others, but you need to recognize when enemies are approaching because their footsteps are much louder than your team's. Here are a few clips showcasing enemies that lacked situational awareness as I approached them from an off angle. In the first clip, the fight is already over and the enemy Doomfist is waiting for the next fight to pounce. He doesn't hear me walk up at all and doesn't even bother to check the hallway while he waits. Rookie mistake. In the next clip, Ashe is waiting to take shots at my team as we come out of spawn, but fails to notice I hung back from the last fight as I walk right up to her face and blast her. Even the Winston couldn't save her. The next examples are extremely egregious because I sneak up on someone as Reinhardt, who, with his clunky armor, is one of the loudest characters in the game. This Ashe should have heard me from a mile away, but wasn't paying attention to footsteps. This Symmetra also lost track of her situational awareness and didn't hear me come up the stairs for her. Don't be like Ashe and Symmetra. Listen for footsteps. I have another cool example here that happened before the match even starts. As I'm looking out the spawn door, I hear an enemy firing in the distance. Quiz time, what enemy is firing in the distance? I'll play it again for you to listen.
The suffering of my people rests heavily upon your shoulders, Torbjorn.
Believe me, I don't need reminding.
Is the answer A, Ashe, B, Torbjorn, C, Roadhog, or D, Junkrat? The answer is A, Ashe. While there was a Torbjorn on my team firing in the spawn, we can hear Ashe using her coach gun and hip firing outside. Using this information, I predict where Ashe is going to set up and switch to Widowmaker to take a favorable duel, which allows me to pick both the Ashe and her Pocket Mercy, allowing my team to easily roll onto the first point. So there you have it. I've tried to boil down situational awareness to some of its key points so you guys can try to apply it in your own games. Let's go over them one more time. Track enemy ultimates based on how much damage and healing they're doing to try and predict their usage. Track enemy abilities so you know when it's safe to go and use your own ult. Keep an eye on the kill feed to know if a fight is already won or lost before investing your ult. Pay attention to what you hear. It gives you a plethora of information that can be invaluable to your success. If you liked the video and hopefully learned something, please be sure to like and subscribe as it will help me continue to make more content like this in the future. If you have any questions or think I missed anything, please be sure to leave a comment and I will definitely get back to you. Until next time, good luck and have fun.